Hello, I'm Henry Keane. We're News Pulse at UATV. Welcome to the show. Today in the episode, on the night of December 31st, Ukraine successfully targeted Russian strategic sites. Russian petrodollars are ablaze. Terrorist remains one no matter what. Russia continues murdering civilians in Ukraine, including children. Trump's envoy to NATO, Whitaker, does not believe Putin. Did Ukraine send those drones at Putin's residence after all? Putin is craving more war. Analysts note that Moscow not only insists on territorial concessions, but also on fulfilling broader demands towards Ukraine, NATO, and the West in general. On the night of December 31st, Ukraine launched a series of powerful precision strikes on Russian strategic sites. Again, for those Russians may be watching us, strategic sites, not civilian. Like the one in the Krasnodar Oblast, for example, the Tuapse oil refinery and maritime terminal were targeted, successfully sparking a large-scale fire and damaging port infrastructure. Simultaneously, drones struck the Temp Ros Reserve facility in the Yaroslavl Oblast, setting fuel storage tanks ablaze in particular. And in general, Ukraine carried out a record number of strikes against Russian energy facilities this December. According to Bloomberg, at least 26 have targeted oil refineries, tankers, and both maritime and pipeline infrastructure, marking the highest intensity of such operations since the war began. The drone and missile campaign is significantly mounting pressure on Russian oil exports and choking the flow of petrodollars. Estimates suggest Russia's oil and gas revenue share in its national budget will plummet to a historic low of 23% only. And more is coming. Such strikes have expanded to offshore sites, the ports of Taman and Rostov, and the particular vessels of Shadow Fleet. Meanwhile, Russia continues its relentless bombardment of Ukrainian civilian infrastructure, despite ongoing diplomatic pressure from the United States. Blackouts hits Moscow region. Locals report that before the large-scale power outage in the Moscow region, sounds of drones were heard. Now it is known that about 600,000 subscribers were left without electricity completely, but Russian local authorities say that the reason of power outage is technical malfunction. Whatever that means, typical Russian lies in such situations. In 2025, the Security Service of Ukraine showed incredible effectiveness in hitting Russian war machine. The enemy received strong and accurate blows, or at least expected them. In the next story, the most striking operations of Security Service of Ukraine in the year 2025. For your attention.
Operation Web demonstrated the scale and pinpoint precision of our strikes. In just a few hours, the enemy lost 41. A strategic aviation aircraft worth over $7 billion. In the Bay of Novorossiysk, Sapsi Baby underwater drones struck a Caliber missile carrier, a Varshiyenka-class submarine. The third strike on the Crimean Bridge became a continuation of the SBU's signature operations. As a result of the powerful explosion, its supports were seriously damaged. Long-range strikes on Russian oil refineries have reduced the aggressor's oil exports by more than 30%. The enemy's Shadow Fleet did not go unnoticed either. The Security Service of Ukraine is systematically reducing the enemy's military potential, taking out their equipment worth billions of dollars, both at the front and deep behind enemy lines.
Because Russia is a terrorist state and so it acts accordingly, the Russian army's terror against Ukrainian civilian population just continues. Odesa and the surrounding areas are under fire this time and again. Last night, enemy forces attacked the region with drones. Houses in residential area are damaged and severely, as you can see. 6 people injured, 3 of them are children. The youngest was only 7 months old. Warehouses and logistics centers were also targeted, causing fires. Part of the regional center was left without electricity, water and heat. According to local authorities, Russians are again targeting the region's civilians and energy infrastructure in most densely populated areas. 10 substations in the Odesa region in December were destroyed or damaged. Russia also have targeted 25 energy facilities in the region since the beginning of the year. Russian forces also attacked the Kyiv region last night. A multi-story residential building was damaged in the city of Bila Tserkva. 2 persons injured with shrapnel, according to local authorities. Russia continues to exert as much pressure as it can on Ukraine and, of course, also on the front line. 149 combat clashes were recorded in the past 24 hours alone, according to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. In the Pokrovsk direction, the Ukrainian army repelled 35 enemy assault attempts. There were 18 more in Konstantinovka direction and 10 in Liman. Fierce fighting is also ongoing as of now in the Hulai Pole sector of the front line. There, Ukrainian defenders successfully repelled 24 attacks. United States Ambassador to NATO, Matthew Whitaker, cast doubt on Vladimir Putin. In particular, Whitaker cast doubt on December 30th on Russia's accusation that Ukraine attacked Russia's dictator's Putin residence, saying he wants to see US intelligence on the incident fast. All right, here is a summary of the whole thing in 4 points for you. First, Putin says on December 29 that Ukraine had attacked his residence in the Novgorod region with as much as 90 drones, with not a single local blogger or anyone at all in the whole region of Novgorod, where Putin's luxury hideaway is located. No one but Putin saw it or heard it, let alone filmed it. Second, Ukraine denies the falsified accusations and all that during a peace negotiations that are very important for Ukraine, calling them that They are complete fabrications, tossed to justify further Russian aggression and avoid sad peace talks. Third, Trump claims Putin told him of the attack personally and expressed anger, but the White House and intelligence agencies remain tight-lipped. And fourth, US Ambassador Matthew Whitaker questions Russia's claim of Ukrainian drone attack on Putin's residence, but is still awaiting US intelligence confirmation.
It seems to me a little indelicate to be this close at a peace deal, Ukraine really wanting to get a peace deal done, and then to do something that would be viewed as reckless or not helpful. So we're going to get to the bottom of the intelligence.
And look who's talking right now. Putin, he says Russia would retaliate, and that his negotiating stance would toughen in talks. Toughen. That could mean all of Ukraine, maybe Baltic states and peace of Poland for starters.
Almost a day passed, and Russia still hasn't provided any plausible evidence to its accusations of Ukraine's alleged attack on Putin's residence. And they won't, because there's none. No such attack happened. Such reactions to Russia's baseless manipulative claims only play into Russian propaganda and encourage Moscow for more atrocities and lies. We call on all states to act responsibly and refrain from responding to unverified claims. This undermines the constructive peace process that has been advancing lately. Andrii Sybiha, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, on X.
Well, of course, there were no drones. No matter what Zelenskyy wished to Putin personally in his Christmas address, Ukraine would never risk it now in the middle of peace talks, even if there's so-called peace talks. So, to explain it all to you, I had an idea. Have you maybe heard of the Sword of Damocles? It refers to an impending, ever-present danger, or doom even, that threatens someone in a position of power or privilege. In terms of Russia, downgrade power to dictatorship, and in terms of weapon, just upgrade sword to drones. And you will clearly see why a usurper, a dictator, Putin, sees danger literally everywhere. Today, in the last day of the year 2025, Romania announced its €50 million contribution to the US-led Pearl priority acquisition list for Ukraine's defense initiative. Pearl was created specifically to help Ukraine to strengthen Ukraine's defense capabilities by purchasing US-made weapons, reinforcing its ongoing military and humanitarian support, including F-16 pilot training and support for Ukrainian refugees. And now, Romania solidified its commitment to Ukraine's security and European stability. By doing so, Romania has officially joined a key US-coordinated military support mechanism for Ukraine, becoming part of a growing international bloc pledging direct financial contributions to Kyiv's defense. The €50 million commitment, confirmed by Romania's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and announced by Foreign Minister Oana Toiu.
Romania joins the Pearl mechanism to support Ukraine's defence. The government of Romania has adopted a decision to join the states contributing to the United States proposal regarding the Priority Acquisition List for Ukraine's defence, Pearl, with a contribution of €50 million alongside the majority of European allies and other like-minded states. Oana Toiu, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Romania, on X.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now.
Romania down that not only because of values, that's important, but also because of the costs. Because it's cheaper, faster and safer to collectively fund a proxy fighting a brutal invader than doing so on its own. Ukraine would know for sure. Thank you, Romania. Despite positive comments of United States President Donald Trump about the conversation with Putin, Russian dictator is simply not the kind of person to be trusted, said Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, noting that the Kremlin does not want peace. And its statements are nothing more than exerting pressure on the United States. The goal is obvious: to cancel Western sanctions. How Putin is trying to disrupt negotiations, learn that in more detail in our story for you.
Putin does not seek peace. The Kremlin's goals in the war against Ukraine go far beyond capturing individual territories, in particular the Donetsk region. Analysts note that it is indicative that now Moscow not only insists on territorial concessions, but also on fulfilling broader demands toward Ukraine, NATO, and the West in general.
Recent Kremlin statements are at odds with several of the positions that Trump presented as the basis for ending the war. The Kremlin has repeatedly rejected European-led security guarantees for Ukraine. Kremlin officials have also called for any future peace agreement to address Russia's demands that NATO cease expansion and roll back its borders. A peace deal that does not address Russian demands of NATO and the West outside of Ukraine will not satisfy Russia, nor lead to a lasting peace that can normalize Russian-European or U.S.-Russian relations. From a report by the Institute for the Study of War.
Analysts from the Institute for the Study of War note that Russia is now aimed at changes in the European security system and reducing NATO influence. Putin's new statements contradict U.S. President Donald Trump's proposals within the peace agreement. In particular, the Kremlin continues to reject security guarantees for Ukraine proposed by Europe.
No, not a ceasefire. He feels that, look, they're fighting and to stop, and then if they have to start again, which is a possibility, he doesn't want to be in that position. I understand that position. The president feels strongly about that or something, but I think we're finding ways that we can get around that.
Putin does not want peace. On the contrary, he states that he will go further, noted Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy.
That's why, of course, we need dialogue of and pressure from President Trump. Sanctions, dialogue, he has some instruments, and he's personally can do it, I think. And I think that he's trying to do it, trying to bring this peace. I don't trust Putin, and he doesn't want success for Ukraine, really. He doesn't want. He can say it. I believe that he can say such words to President Trump. I believe in it, that he can say it, but it's not truth, really. He doesn't want to have from President Trump more pressure with sanctions and etc. And he can say that I want success for Ukraine and I'm ready to give them cheap electricity. Really, between us, we don't need cheap, this energy because we paid so great, this price, our lives. It's not about energy. We don't need anything from them. That's why I think its message is for President Trump, yes, to find a way how to communicate with him.
The Russian and Ukrainian sides still do not find agreement on the issue of managing the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant occupied by Russian troops, as well as on the status of the partially Russian-occupied Donbas in eastern Ukraine. Despite Europe and the USA's attempts in the peace negotiation process, Putin's appetites remain too disproportionate, stated the president of Lithuania. Gitanas Nausėda noted that the next few weeks will show whether Russia wants peace and is ready for full-fledged negotiations.
However, so far we see an extremely limited reaction from the Kremlin, and this does not allow full optimism. Russia's appetites in peace negotiations on Ukraine are too great. They can lead to a situation where these conditions will simply be unacceptable for one of the sides. Either if the conditions are favorable for Russia, it will be unacceptable for Ukraine, or vice versa. Therefore, I am still cautious, even quite cautious, looking at the outcome of this possible process. Gitanas Nausėda, President of Lithuania, from a publication by LRT.
Russia's appetites are growing, and the probability of a Russian invasion of NATO countries is becoming more real than ever, Europeans believe. Therefore, alliance member states, primarily the Baltic countries, are increasingly strengthening their defense capability. In particular, Latvia has completed the construction of a 280-kilometer fence along the border with Russia. It lasted several years and became one of the country's largest infrastructure projects in national security. Earlier, Lithuania already erected a barrier on the border with Belarus, stretching almost 145 kilometers. Reported by Yulia Hranovska, UATV News.
Well, that is it for today. I am Henry Keane. Thank you so very much for watching us and standing with Ukraine. Your time and reactions were highly valued and very much appreciated all through this hard year for us in Ukraine. Today, in New Year's Eve, we'd like to say thank you for your support from the bottom of our hearts. Please consider subscribing today so to stay tuned to what the year 2026 holds for all of us, while UATV will be doing our usual best to present it to you from Ukrainian perspective. Always see you tomorrow in a new 2026 year. Happy New Year.